Hey y'all, so today we're going to be reviewing chapter 15 out of the book Women Who Run with the Wolves, and I'm sad this is this is the last chapter out of the book, and it's really good. It's short. We can go through it together in one video, but I've already had my moment before starting the video where I allowed myself to be a little sad about it. The good news is I was already kind of brainstorming about the videos going forward. I mean, I could always just talk about whatever's on my mind with regards to the same topics. But I've really enjoyed having a point of reference to start with and from. And so I think I want to try and continue that. And then as we're reading through today, I'll kind of show you something that was tucked away in this chapter that actually I feel like it was confirmation for me that that I was thinking along the right path. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed today's presentation, and there's a couple of words I had to look up, so I'm hoping I pronounced them correctly, and always new vocabulary words to learn with this book, and it's been so much fun. I hope that you've enjoyed it as well. So all right, so chapter 15 is called Shadowing, Canto Hondo, the Deep Song. All right, so I'm actually going to read a lot of this to you. I struggled to cut a whole lot out because it's so rich. I might as well go ahead and say it for this last video too. It's so rich. I feel like I've said that for every chapter, but it's just true. So here we go. So let me go ahead and touch on my opening notes here. So this chapter is going to inspire us to move forward living with purpose, with intention, because a lot of the work that that she has detailed out for growth, for personal growth of and development of our psyche, to help our psyches mature and grasp the lessons, the crazy and hard lessons that life has just thrown at us and thrust at us, right? So we've gone through analyzing all those lessons and trying to break that down for the purpose of developing our psyche and getting it to work in a cohesive manner so that we're balanced and so that we're approaching life aware. We're no longer naive, right? That's been a huge theme throughout the whole book. So this last chapter, my perspective is that it's meant to encourage us and inspire us to take what we've learned and now move forward and approach life with intention and with purpose, to move with purpose. And I love the examples she gives. I think that, you know, you're welcome obviously to take notes if you want, but I think a lot of what we're going to go over today is just going to resonate with you, and I don't think you're going to forget it. So I know I won't. So and I also want to bring up, she uses, and I'm sure you've noticed this if you've watched the other videos, but she has used the lens of numinosity as related to like the old goddess related stories and beliefs. And so just feel free to apply your own lens, whatever numinosity means to you. If you are a spiritual person, if you have a spiritual belief of any kind, just apply your own lens, because I was able to do that. And so we'll kind of pause some of those moments as we're reading and just kind of look at those points together. And then I also want to prompt you to be thinking about, as we're reading through, she's really focused in this chapter on the one who knows, on the elusive aspect of Wild Woman, okay, like Isabe, all the different names she has, La Loba. She's really focused in on that elusiveness of her. And so I love how, as we're going to be talking through, or I'm going to be reading to you, how wolves behave, right? When someone new enters their territory. how they kind of behave, okay? And so I just want you to be thinking how that applies, for you and just us and humanity and in our lives, because I feel like it's like a touch and go type relationship between a wolf and a new animal or a person or whoever who has entered their territory, okay? And you're going to see what I mean when I read about this here. But it's like a touch and go kind of exposure. So it's the same way with like Esabe, the one who knows, wild woman, in our lives. The numinosity can kind of come and go. And the cool part about this is we can use these hard lessons in our life as opportunities to recognize her presence, right? Again, apply your own lens. You could say his presence, right? Yes, because I can certainly say that's been the case for me. When I needed God the most, he showed up. He showed up. And, sometimes he's quiet, and sometimes that's frustrating. And sometimes we want things on our time scale. And ultimately, everything is on his time scale, his time frame. And so, but if you're, I go back to that Bible verse, ask, believe, and receive, right? Knock and the door shall be opened. And so you have to have eyes to see, first of all, but you have to ask too. And so as far as detecting the numinosity in our life, that's kind of related here. And so it can just take one experience in life for this connection to the numinous aspect of reality and existence to spark in your life. Just one interaction, one exposure to wild woman, right? Or to the divine, however you want to position this. And that's all it takes, and it just transforms a person's life. And so just be thinking about that as we're reading along, and I just hope that you're inspired and encouraged, and I hope that I'm able to give you a lot to think about, so that I can do my part in inspiring you to move forward with purpose in your life. Okay, so let's read on. So she says, shadowing means to have such a light touch, such a light tread, that one can move freely through the forest, observing without being observed. A wolf shadows anyone or anything that passes through her territory. It is her way of gathering information. It is the equivalent of manifesting and then becoming like smoke, and then manifesting again. Wolves can move ever so softly. The sound they make is in the manner of Los Angeles Temidos. Probably not saying that right. The shyest angels. First they fall back and shadow the creature they're curious about. Then all of a sudden they appear ahead of the creature, peeking half-face with one golden eye from behind a tree. Abruptly, the wolf turns and vanishes in a blur of white ruff and plumed tail, only to backtrack and pop up behind the stranger again. That is shadowing. The wild woman has been shadowing human women for years. Now we see a glimpse of her. Now she is invisible again. Yet she makes so many appearances in our lives, and in so many different forms, we feel surrounded by her images and urges. She comes to us in dreams or in stories, for she wants to see who we are and if we are ready to join her yet. If we but look at the shadows we cast, we see that they are not two-legged human shadows, but the lovely shape of something free and wild. We are meant to be permanent residents, not just tourists, in her territory, for we are derived from that land. It is our motherland and our inheritance at the same time. The wild force of our soul psyches is shadowing us for a reason. There is a saying from medieval times that if you are in a descent and pursued by a great power, and if this great power is able to snag your shadow, then you too shall become a power in your own right. The great wild force of our own psyches means to place its paw on our shadows, and in that manner she claims us as her own. Once the wild woman snags our shadows, we belong to ourselves again. We are in our own right environ and in our rightful home. Most women are not afraid of this. In fact, they crave the reunion. If they could this very moment find the lair of the wild woman, they would dive right in and jump happily into her lap. I'm reminded of that song, I think it's Sonic Flood, Carried Away. I want to jump in with both feet. Yeah. They only need to be set in the right direction, which is always down, down into one's own work, down into one's own inner life, down through the tunnel to the lair. So when she says they only need to be set in the right direction, I feel like that's moving with purpose and passion in life. You know what I mean? Finding our purpose and our passion, and then and living in it, you know, which is what I feel like, you know, the divine would want us to do, or wild woman would want us to do. We began our search for the wild, whether as girl children or as adult women, because in the midst of some wildish endeavor, we felt that a wild and supportive presence was near. Yes. So that's like that one, you know, that one experience that can trigger that numinous relationship with the light inside, our awareness of the light inside, the invitation anyway, because I don't believe that all people have the light inside. I think some turn away from it. So then she kind of goes into, I'm going to sum up this paragraph here, just she's expanding on this idea in her poetic manner that she does. It's so beautiful. And she says, we innately knew, like this experience when we felt this presence near, we innately knew that something powerful and someone important, some wild freedom within us was on the move. She says, we could not turn from it, but rather followed, learning more and more how to leap, how to run, how to shadow all things that came across our psychic ground. We began to shadow the wild woman as she lovingly shadowed us in return. She howled, and we tried to answer her, even before we remembered how to speak her language, and even before we exactly knew to whom we were speaking. And she waited for us and encouraged us. This is the miracle of the wild and instinctual nature within. Without full knowing, we knew. I thought that was a powerful statement. Without full sight, we understood that a miraculous and loving force existed beyond the boundaries of ego alone. Yes. So that's the opportunity for a rebirth. You know, it's like that calling to examine ourselves. The opportunity for an ego death. Because the numinous can't lead us until we take the back seat, you know, and the ego never wants to do that, which is what prompts the ego death, right? And a narcissist, I feel like, since we've always looked at this book through that lens, a narcissist or anyone who has chosen to live, you know, a life of lies and a selfish life to the detriment of others' well-being, I feel like I kind of got off track. Yeah, I feel like they ran the other way, away from the light, and they chose to embrace the ego. So that's what you may consider the crossroads, right? When you become aware, when we sense that presence, and there's that opportunity, because the only way, like I said, that this presence is going to be able to take the lead, because it knows best. You know, we have to admit that we have some type of lack, that we are flawed, that we aren't whole and complete without it, because there's no way it'll work otherwise. You know, it's like either or, that's the crossroads. Or you can choose yourself and just not be willing to give it up and admit that you're limited as a human being. And so it's like this in itself, it's that whole divine paradox. By admitting that we are limited and embracing the numinous gift of that divine spark within us, the Holy Spirit, whatever lens you want to apply, by doing that, then suddenly that verse, all things are possible with God and through God, becomes active in our life, you know? And that's the difference in living through victimhood and living through all things are possible. And someone who's going to approach life through the victimhood lens is going to feel the need because they don't think anything's possible, right? They feel this need to deceive others, and do whatever it takes ultimately just to get by in life. So just to exist. So it's there's a great divide there. Okay, so then she says, as a child, Opal Whiteley wrote these words about reconciliation with the power of the wild, which is what we were just talking about. Reconciliation, right? The acceptance of that divine spark in your life and in your heart as the one who leads. Today, near eventime, I did lead the girl who has no seeing a little way into the forest, where it was darkness and shadows were. I led her toward a shadow that was coming our way. It did touch her cheeks with its velvety fingers, and now she too does have likings for shadows, and her fear that is gone. You can see how these little poems and the stories and the myths and everything can align with spiritual beliefs, you know. Maybe some songs that you already knew. It just kind of, I'm finding those patterns, you know, and the synchronicities. It's like the parallels. I'm finding all of that as we go through these stories, and I just love it. I think maybe I want to continue examining more stories and fairy tales and folklore and myths, and, you know, even poetry and quotes. And you can take just one quote and expand on that if you're inspired, you know. So the next section is powerful to me. I wrote the word powerful. So let's see if we can remember why it made that impression on me. It says, the things that have been lost to women for centuries can be found again by following the shadows they cast. Yeah, it's like a treasure hunt, you know? And make a candle to Guadalupe, for these lost and stolen treasures still cast shadows across our night dreams, and in our imaginal daydreams, and in old stories and poetry, and in any inspired moment. Women across the world, your mother, my mother, you and I, your sister, your friend, our daughters, all the tribes of women not yet met, we all dream what is lost. I would say men too, honestly. So remember, just apply your own lens, but I think this is all of us. We all dream what is lost, what next must rise from the unconscious. We all dream the same dreams worldwide. Isn't that interesting? It's like to ponder the collective unconscious, and in themes such as that. We all dream the same dreams worldwide. We are never without the map. We are never without each other. We unite through our dreams. Yes. And then through the Christian lens, you could say, you know, we are all part of the body of Christ. That's powerful. You know, how often do we really stop and think about that? And Christ is God in the flesh. A lot to think about. So we get to partake in that, you know, through that divine spark, through the numinosity. All right. She says, and excuse me, I'm having trouble talking today. I still have some postnasal drainage. It's just that fun time of year with spring and pollen, you know. But I'm going to persist. Steadfast. Dreams are compensatory. They provide a mirror into the deep unconscious, most often reflecting what is lost and what is yet needed for correction and balance. The unconscious is constantly producing teaching images. So like the fabled lost continent, the wild dreamland rises out of our sleeping bodies, rises steaming and streaming to create a sheltering motherland over all of us. It is the continent of our knowing. It is the land of our self. And this is what we dream. We dream the archetype of wild woman. We dream of reunion. And we are born and reborn with this dream every day and create from its energy all during the daytime. Now, I made a note here where it's talking about creating from that energy. I think that's what also another quality that separates those of us who are self-motivated, because we do have the light inside, versus someone who does not have the light inside, such as a narcissist, a person with bad intentions, a self-absorbed, cruel person, a liar, a thief. Because technically they're separated from God, not housing the light inside. And so they are envious of us that we can create. They don't understand. It's confusing to them. And I think that's why they just want to jump on board and just take advantage of, of what we are able to create in our life, and even take the credit if they can. I'm sure you've probably had some experience with this. I know I have. It's mind-boggling. It is, and then it's not. You know what I'm saying? Because right here it's talking about we create from its energy during the daytime, and if it's not there, then it's not there for a person. We are born and reborn night after night from this same wild dream, and we return to daylight grasping a coarse hair, the soles of our feet black with damp earth, our hair smelling like ocean or forest or cook fire. Yes, yes. I put our willingness and desire to connect with the numinous, with God, is what puts us on solid ground. And I love how she says, she describes our feet black with damp earth. It's like we've been in that underground forest for a bit. So, and then she expands on that, talking about, taking that inspiration from the underworld into our day-to-day lives, how it can be mundane, but how we can actually, how we can, I think the word here might be transmute the mundane part of our lives through that awareness we have, that presence we have inside of us, how we can impact our world just through living aligned with this divine spark. She says, the wild feminine is not only sustainable in all worlds, it sustains all worlds. And then she expands a little bit more, talking about a resurrected land as a metaphor. She says, this world is being made from our lives, our cries, our laughter, our bones. It is a world worth making, a world worth living in, a world in which there is a prevailing and decent wild sanity, right? Which is the opposite of those limiting and rigid religious structures, that were actually corrupted for the benefit of prophets. I'm thinking of Jesus, flipping the tables, for example. So it's you have the wild sanity, which is like the true truth. You know what I'm saying? The deepest truths, which can only come from the divine. And then you have worldly truths and customs, which, because of the world, the fact that the world is fallen, it's a fallen world. I feel like the opportunity for corruption can seep in anywhere. And that's why we have to stay aligned with these deepest truths. So, just my thoughts. I hope it helps. She says, when we think of reclamation, it may bring to mind bulldozers or carpenters, the restoration of an old structure, and that is the modern usage of the word. However, the older meaning is this. The word reclamation is derived from the old French reclaimer, meaning to call back the hawk which has been let fly. Yes, to call something of the wild to return when it is called. It is therefore, by its meaning, an excellent word for us. We are using the voices of our minds, our lives, and our souls to call back intuition, imagination, to call back the wild woman, and she comes. Yes, yes. And I think I've mentioned before to you all that I've got a pretty extensive background in art. That's what I have my college degrees in, and a lot of my work and my interests. And so I love imagination, because I feel like that quality is just straight from the Creator, the ability to create, and you have to be able to have an open mind to create. And so that's what we're calling back, is our intuition and imagination, so that we're not going to let these good qualities in us be exploited anymore. So yes, to call back wild woman, and she comes. She says, women cannot get away from this. If there is to be change, We are it. Yes. We carry La Que Sabe, the one who knows. If there is to be inner change, individual woman must do it. If there is to be world change, we women have our own way of helping to achieve it. And my note says we can do our part to bring about changes in the world. And if you think about the qualities of the feminine nature, within women, it's to nurture and to nourish. And what's the result of that? We're able to bring people peace and to bring about a calm in our environment. So we can do our part, but first we have to take care of us and do the work we need to do to bring it to ourselves first. And then once we can, I feel like even our lives in themselves can be a beacon for others, you know what I mean, to observe us, and so we can call others to the light and to some calm and a peaceful life, just through our own actions. So we all can have our own ways of impacting the world and changing the world, but at first it starts in here, the man in the mirror. Like Michael Jackson would sing about, right? Yeah. Wild Woman whispers the words and the ways to us, and we follow. She has been running and stopping and waiting to see if we are catching up. She has something, many things to show us. So if you are on the verge of breaking away, taking a risk, daring to act in prescribed ways, then dig up the deepest bones possible. Fructifying, yes, that's the word I had to look up. And I had to play, like the Google speaker button over and over to make sure I was saying it right. Yeah, that's it. Maybe it's familiar to you. It was unfamiliar to me. It means to make, I think, if I remember correctly, to bring about the ability to be fruitful, right? So let me start over for myself. So if you are on the verge of breaking away, taking a risk, daring to act in prescribed ways, then dig up the deepest bones possible. Fructifying the wild and natural aspects of women, of life, of men, of children, of earth. See how we're inspired to help others to bear their own fruit. Ultimately it's up to them. It's that whole, you can lead a horse to water saying, but you can't make it drink. It's that. So we can be the inspiration, and we can use our imagination for that piece, right? To lead other people back to their intuition. So it kind of all goes together in that way. Where was I? Use your love. I thought this was interesting. Use your love and good instincts to know when to growl, to pounce, to take a swipe, when to retreat, when to bay till dawn. I skipped a little there just because I want to make sure this is okay to read. To live as closely as possible to the numinous wild. Yes, a woman must do more head tossing, more brimming, have more sniffing intuition, more creative life, more get down dirty. I think she means that in a good way. I love her colorful way of describing things, right? Dirty as far as the forest and the underworld forest and the wild nature of Wild Woman, More solitude, more women's company, more natural life, more fire, more cooking of words and ideas. Isn't that just the most amazing experience, to cook ideas with others? I love that. I love to brainstorm and to take deep dives, and surface level conversations never interested me. She must do more recognition of sorority, more seating, more rootstock, more kindness to men, more neighborhood revolution, more poetry, more painting of fables and facts of the wild feminine, more howling, much more canto hondo, much more deep song. And then she kind of goes into expanding on that about, embracing our scars. Remember, she had had a chapter on the Scar Clan and not to be ashamed, and to wear our scars proudly. She says, let us not overspend on anger. Instead, let us be empowered by it. She says, let us keep in mind that the best cannot hide. Meditation, education, all the dream analysis, all the knowledge of God's green acre is of no value if one keeps it all to oneself or one's chosen few. So come out wherever you are. Yes, yes. You don't want to just stay in your house forever, on the couch, in the bed, away from the world. There's a verse in the Bible, and I can't remember how it goes. I'll drop it in the description, but it says like a light is supposed to be set on top of a hill, basically, right? You can't hide it, and you shouldn't hide it. And so I think that time alone is necessary as a transitional stage coming out of a bad situation, an abusive situation. But at some point, as we do the work, you know, we want to, as we rekindle that fire inside, you know, because we're not going to let it go out. We're going to, you know, grab onto that tiny flame, that spark inside of us with all of our might, and we're going to work it, and we're going to rekindle it. And then, you know, so during that stage, it's normal to want to kind of be in solitude, but at some point we want to get up and out and show ourselves, right? Like the song, show yourself. Yes. So she says, so come out wherever you are. Excuse me. Leave deep footprints because you can. Be the old woman in the rocking chair who rocks the idea until it becomes young again. Be the courageous and patient woman in the crescent moon bear who learns to see through illusion. Don't be distracted by burning matches and fantasies like the little match girl. Yes. Hold out till you find the ones you belong to, like the ugly duckling. Yes. Clear the creative river so La Llorona can find what belongs to her. Like the handless maiden, let the enduring heart lead you through the forest. Like La Loba, collect the bones of lost valuables and sing them back to life. Forgive as much as you can, forget a little, and create a lot. What you do today influences your matrilineal lines in the future. The daughters of your daughters are likely to remember you, and most importantly, follow in your tracks. The ways and means of living with the instinctive nature are many, and the answers change as you change and as the world changes. This is why instinct matters, because everything is in flux, everything is fluid, and everything is changing. And so that's why the customs and the rules and the laws of the world are going to be changing, but you want that solid ground, the solid rock to stand on that never changes. And our instinct is tied directly to that, and that will tell us how to navigate this ever-changing world, right? Yeah. The answers change as you change and as the world changes, so it cannot be said, do this and this in this particular order, and all will be well. But over my lifetime, as I've met wolves, I have tried to puzzle out how they live, for the most part, in such harmony. So for peaceable purposes, I would suggest you begin right now with anything on this list. For those who are struggling, it may help greatly to begin with number 10. General wolf rules for life. Number 1, eat. Number 2, rest. Number 3, rove in between. Number 4, render loyalty. Number 5, love the children. Number 6, cavil in moonlight. Number 7, tune your ears. Number 8, attend to the bones. Number 9, make love. Number 10, how often? And that is Women Who Run with the Wolves. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. I've already got my tears out before starting the video. So I am going to come back here with one more video from the book on the afterword, Story is Medicine, and share that with you all. Because storytelling is not the lying kind. You know, like I grew up, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but you know, it's like I grew up with my grandmother and my mom saying, don't tell any stories, meaning lies. But that's not the kind of storytelling we're talking about, obviously. So I feel like this kind of storytelling has kind of lost its way in modern culture, and how beautiful to revivify that, right? Or revivify. Yeah, always learning, always growing, never stop growing, never stop learning, right? Thank you all so much. I hope that you enjoyed today's presentation, and I will see you again very soon. Have a beautiful day. I'm not going to forget that part. See you soon.